You join us for the second meeting of the 2016-17 FF2M Asia season, and it takes place at the magnificent Suzuka circuit. Full of challenging corners that can easily catch out drivers, this has the potential to be a bit of a chaotic affair. A quick recap of the previous meeting, and it took place at the Sepang circuit in Malaysia. It was Pierre Gasly who won the feature race for Willows Junior as part of a Willows Junior 1-2, with Charles Leclerc finishing second. Pole sitter George Russell finished fourth in that race. Unfortunately for George, it wasn't such a good race in the sprint race, where he crashed with Genjo Se on the first lap. It was Esteban Ocon who went through from second on the grid to win, despite using the less grippier hard tyres. He managed to make the most out of them. Esteban Ocon driving for Spaniel Racing. Here's a look at the Suzuka circuit, and the first time we've come here for quite a while. I think we have raced at Suzuka in previous seasons of FF2M Asia, but certainly not for a while. It'll be a 30-lap feature race, with the pit window taking place at laps 10 to 20, and the sprint race, which will follow the day after, will be taking place over 12 laps. So as mentioned, it was Pierre Gasly who had won the feature race at the Sepang circuit, but it's Benjamin Pryor in the STV Racing who will start from pole position ahead of Nick de Vries. Then it's Esteban Ocon, the sprint race winner of Sepang, third ahead of his main enemy Pierre Gasly. Charles Leclerc will start fifth for Willows Junior ahead of Itsuki Yoshida, who had a very checkered Sepang meeting, got involved in quite a lot of incidents. Pascal Wehrlein seventh ahead of George Russell eighth. Then it's Chuck Bucknam in the OLM ninth ahead of Daniel Kvyat in the Gajera 2 10th. Mitch Evans 11th ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi 12th in the other STV Racing. Santino Ferrucci and Nikita Mazepin making an all-liquid target row 7. Alexander Albon 15th ahead of Lance Stroll 16th. Then Genjo Se, the Chinese driver for GRM Junior, 17th ahead of Sergei Sorokin 18th. Callum Ilott 19th ahead of Lucas Auer 20th. And then the back row filled by Pietro Fittipaldi in the other GRM Junior and Jack Aitken in the OLM Racing, his teammate up in 9th. So there's a look at the starting grid. On the left is pole sitter Benjamin Pryor, who got himself involved in an incident. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. But the 5 lights go out, and Pryor getting away very well. De Vries less so, and he's already been overtaken by Esteban Ocon, who's looking a bit feisty behind the Welshman Pryor, going into the first corner. First couple of corners, Ocon trying it round the outside, but Pryor has the shorter inside line and holds on to the lead. And it's Ocon second ahead of Pierre Gasly third. He's jumped up to third place, and De Vries dropping back even further. He is battling with Charles Leclerc for fourth place through the S's. They're side by side as we exit the S's into the long left Dunlop curve. Been recently renamed, but I can't quite remember what it's been renamed to. But so for now, let's call it the Dunlop curve, as Pierre Gasly versus Esteban Ocon into the Degner curves. Ocon running very wide at the first apex and nearly losing second place to Pierre Gasly as a result, but hanging on. And now Nick de Vries, having won his battle against Charles Leclerc, looking to make it past Pierre Gasly for third place. He will do it at that hairpin curve, literally called hairpin curve. But anyway, Yoshida, I just saw the pink car in the background. He's 7th. He's lost a place to Pascal Wehrlein at the start, and Chuck Bucknam up a place as well. So Bucknam doing well in the OLM Racing. As we go through the spoon curve, and look at the lead that Benjamin Pryor has got, and he'll be looking to make up for a difficult Sepang meeting after being a little bit off the pace in the feature race, as Nick de Vries goes up the inside of Pierre Gasly at the 130R curve, but not making that one stick just yet. Is he going to switch to the inside line into the Casio triangle? No, not quite. But yeah, Benjamin Pryor, a bit off the pace at the Sepang feature race, but was going very well in this sprint race on these soft tyres, but then getting involved in an incident with his teammate, Antonio Giovinazzi. Let's have a look at Nick de Vries going up the inside of Gasly into the first corner as he managed it, the side-by-side, but I think de Vries is going to take third place off of Pierre Gasly. That is correct. So, yeah, Pryor overtaking Giovinazzi into the first corner, but getting involved in a bit of contact, much to the chagrin of STV Racing, and they effectively trashed their whole sprint race. But at least STV did get points in the Sepang meeting, with Antonio Giovinazzi having a very good drive from 14th to 5th in the feature race. Copybook blotted in the sprint race, but Pryor is doing quite well, 2.3 seconds ahead of Esteban Ocon as they started lap number 2. And then De Vries third now ahead of Pierre Gasly. We saw that overtake going through the first couple of corners, and now Gasly coming under pressure from Charles Leclerc. I wonder what tyres Leclerc's running, because it's the hard tyres according to the sidewall, so both equal grip in equal cars, but Leclerc the faster driver at the moment, and up the inside into 130R. Leclerc trying to take 4th place, and now they're side by side for the braking zone into the Casio triangle, but Pierre Gasly hanging on for now. Clunking the curbs a little bit is the Frenchman as he tries to battle to stay ahead of the Monegasque. Not quite French, but near enough, as Pryor sets the fastest lap. 1 minute 40.374. He was a second quicker than Ocon on that lap. Pryor is absolutely on it. Pole position, and Leclerc taking Gasly. Leclerc taking Gasly for 4th place through the first corner. And further back, Chuck Bucknam's making good progress. He's up into 6th place now, and George Russell 7th, Wehrlein 8th. So Wehrlein dropping back, and Yoshida dropping back even more than that, because he's not in the top 8. Through the Dunlop curve now, that's Nick De Vries versus Esteban Ocon, and up the inside into Degner. That'll be a risky one, and can't make that one stick, and he pushes Ocon... forces Ocon into a running wide moment, but they're still side by side, and further back Bucknam's making a move on Gasly, and what's going to happen into hairpin curve? Is De Vries going to take the position? Is Ocon going to outbrake De Vries? No, he's not, because De Vries is up into 2nd place, and now Ocon coming under pressure from Charles Leclerc. You can overtake going into the first spoon curve, and in fact it's Ocon looking to try and make a move back on De Vries going into the first part of the spoon curve. Not quite, the braking zone is just a bit too short and a bit too sudden. But further back, Russell moving past Gasly, and Russell has taken Gasly as well, so Bucknam and Russell moving up to a place each at the expense of Gasly as Ocon versus Leclerc into the 130R. Be careful, but you can run side by side through here. And the Monegasque versus the Frenchman. It's the Frenchman who has the inside line into Casio and holding on to 3rd place. But now he's got a Dutchman in front of him in the form of Nick De Vries in the Danish racing car. It is in fact 2 Danish racing cars in the top 8 as Pryor sets another new fastest lap, and he's pulled out a huge gap on that last lap, so at least 3 seconds over the competition. Obviously De Vries will have been spent that previous lap battling with Ocon, but that's allowing Pryor to get away. And further back, what's happening? Wehrlein still in 8th, so we're here with Chuck Bucknam, and this is challenging Esteban Ocon for 3rd place into the first Degner, and that was a good forceful move from the American, the man from Detroit, taking 3rd place off of Esteban Ocon. Now, is this Ocon versus Leclerc once again going into the first spoon curve? It is, and Ocon defending his position, making sure Leclerc can't do a dive bomb into the first part of the spoon. But this is where quite a bit of the overtaking happens on the Suzuka circuit. Into the slipstream comes Charles Leclerc on Esteban Ocon, and now at the inside, and does Leclerc have enough of an overspeed on the Spaniel driver to take that position off of him? He just about does, and Leclerc back up into 4th place now. So Leclerc on the move. Now, can he set off after Bucknam? I doubt it, because I took a quick shot of Bucknam's onboard, and he is on the soft tyres, so Bucknam can do something in this race as Nick De Vries sets a new fastest lap, so he's going to try and eat into the lead of Benjamin Pryor. Both those two starting on the front row of the grid, and I'm still a bit unsure as to what tyres Pryor and De Vries are on. I'd imagine they ran softs in qualifying, which means that the compounds will be reversed for the feature race, meaning they'll be on hards, and then reversing the compounds once again for this sprint race. So softs for qualifying and sprints. That's soft tyres on George Russell as he now challenges Esteban Ocon for 5th place now. Ocon not quick in this race, it seems. We've got yellow flags. Where and who? Who has gone off where, as Russell takes 5th off of Esteban Ocon through the Degners. Seen a bit of overtaking into the Degners. And here's a replay of Sergei Sorokin in the Monolith, running wide at the S's and having a spin. And I assume he rejoins because no caption came up and the yellow flags were withdrawn pretty quickly. So A quick spin for Sorokin, but he rejoins. Still in the race. So, on board with, that's Pierre Gasly versus his great rival Esteban Ocon down the straight approaching the 130R curve. Is Gasly going to take that position? He is indeed. So Pierre Gasly moving up ahead of Esteban Ocon, both on hard tyres. So they've got the same compound as each other, but Ocon just not quick in this race, it seems. And lap 6, it's still Pryor who leads, but De Vries took 0.4 of a second out of the Welshman, and Bucknam setting a new fastest lap. So Chuck Bucknam on the move as we look at Pryor's teammate Antonio Giovinazzi looking to make a move on. Is that Itsuki Yoshida? I think it is. It's a position gained up to 9th place, and now Giovinazzi also on soft tyres. So he's mirroring his Sepang strategy, hards for qualifying and softs for the feature race, and at the moment he's making some decent use out of them because he's now up to 9th place and looking to chase Pascal Wehrlein for 8th. There is the German going into the first corner, being chased by the Italian going into the first corner. It's just a battle for second now between Nick De Vries and Chuck Bucknam. Charles Bucknam is his actual name, but he likes being called Chuck. Seems to be an American thing, actually. As he's in the slipstream, pulls out of the slipstream of Nick De Vries going down the straight into the 130R, and Chuck Bucknam takes second off of the Danish racing team car, but can De Vries bite back going into the Casio triangle? No, he can't, says Chuck Bucknam. Now, can he set off after Pryor and do something about the Welshman's now 4.5 second lead? He certainly can. He's on the charge, is Chuck Bucknam, as Genjo Se makes a move on the other Spaniel of Lance Stroll. That is going through 130R into the Casio triangle. And there's a liquid target in front. Is that Santino Ferrucci or Nikita Mazepin? Well, here's Lucas Auer making a move on a liquid target, going through the Degners and taking advantage of Ferrucci napping a little bit at the first apex, and Ferrucci dropping back behind Mazepin and Stroll and more. Bad run through the Degner curves for Ferrucci as Giovinazzi takes 8th off of Pascal Wehrlein. So now we've got 2 STV Racings in the top 8, but Benjamin Pryor is being properly caught up by Chuck Bucknam for the race lead. Chuck Bucknam's on for a race win if he plays his cards right. As Genjo said, looks to make a move on Lance Stroll into the Degners. Off the track goes Stroll, and spin goes Stroll. Having a bit of a wander across the gravel trap and losing a load of positions. A blown engine for George Russell. That is unlucky. You don't often see mechanical failures in FF2M, but Russell has been struck by a barbecue in the back of his chassis. So that's him out of the race as Chuck Bucknam. Here is the battle for the lead now against Benjamin Pryor, and those are hard tyres for Pryor, so it's not that surprising that Bucknam is a lot quicker at this stage. As pulling out of the slipstream and doesn't even really need to wait for the braking zone, he can just take the lead by sweeping left, and there you go. Chuck Bucknam takes the lead of the race, but remember, Chuck Bucknam will not be racing in all meetings because he is still in the FF3M Championship that is taking place as well, and there'll be an FF3M meeting take place exactly the same time as when FF2M Asia will take place round 3. That's at the Bahrain Grand Prix circuit, supporting the 2016 Bahrain Grand Prix FF1M race. So in Bucknam's place will be Sebastian Buemi for the Bahrain Grand Prix circuit meeting. We're in the middle of pit stops now. We saw, I think it was Charles Leclerc making a pit stop. It could have been Pierre Gasly as well. This is a replay of... Oh, way off the circuit goes Yoshida, but unlike Stroll, Yoshida does not spin. That was the battle for 7th place between Leclerc and Yoshida, and we've got another battle happening here between one of the Danish racing cars. It's Pascal Wehrlein, having made a pit stop, I presume, because he's now behind Genjo Se, going down the main straight now. Pascal Wehrlein takes 13th place. Meanwhile, it's lap 14 and it's Chuck Bucknam in the race lead. 4 seconds now ahead of Benjamin Pryor, who himself is 3.4 ahead of Nick De Vries. So Pryor is starting to struggle a bit now after his early lightning pace. He's now been caught up for second by Nick De Vries. We are having a look at Charles Leclerc, who has made a pit stop, and he is challenging Mitch Evans For 6th place, going down the straight approaching 130R, that's the Medsign 7 of Mitch Evans, who has not yet stopped, and in fact none of the top 6 has stopped. It's Charles Leclerc who is the first of the runners who has stopped, but I imagine the battle for the lead will be between Bucknam and Pryor, depending on when they make their pit stops. But if Bucknam is pulling away at that pace, then Bucknam looking good for his first ever FF2M win, and he's still got an FF3M championship to complete, as up the inside and up to now 5th place goes Charles Leclerc, because Antonio Giovinazzi was making a pit stop, and 2 Shake and Bake Juniors going into combat into the Degner. Nearly contact between the two, but it's Lucas Auer who forces his way past Yoshida for 7th place temporarily, because we are in the middle of a pit stop sequence. And now we are looking at, I assume, Pierre Gasly versus Isuki Yoshida going into the spoon curve. Side by side, Yoshida very fairly giving Gasly some room, because Gasly's on the march. Now Benjamin Pryor making a pit stop from, it was 2nd place, and he should be able to rejoin ahead of this battling lot. Target to get out ahead of Charles Leclerc, because Leclerc has already pitted. And if Pryor gets out ahead, then he's got the advantage of fresher tyres and track position over the Willows Jr., who could have won the Sepang feature race meeting, but left his pit stop way too late, and that allowed Pierre Gasly, who'd pitted laps before, to overcut the Monegasque and effectively win the feature race at Sepang, and denying Leclerc the opportunity to become, I think, the 9th FF2M driver to win on their debut race. That list includes Thomas Gonzalez, Vaino Kiminen and Katerina Caracciola. Chuck Bucknam into the pits from the race lead. I assume the mechanics are out there, but they can't see them, and off go the wheels, on go some more. No problems for Chuck Bucknam, and a very, very good stop, 5.4 seconds. Now, should rejoin ahead of Benjamin Pryor. I can't see Pryor down the right-hand side just yet. That's comfortably in 2nd place for Bucknam. So, once De Vries makes his mandatory pit stop, then Chuck Bucknam will be retaking the lead of the race, but let's wait and see when that happens. We got 2 liquid targets going into combat into the 130R. That's Nikita Mazepin trying to make a move on Santino Ferrucci. Oh, big smoky lockup in the background. That must be the other OLM driver, getting it all out of shape under the brakes. And behind that's Genjo Se. So Genjo Se looking to make a move on Chuck Bucknam's teammate. I forget who that is, but I do have the cheat sheet in front of me, as Genjo Se trying to get in front of, who is it? The other OLM is Jack Aitken. There you go. And Genjo Se taking that position away. Now, Se is going to try and make a move on the 2 liquid targets right in front. So, Pierre Gasly looking to try and take 6th place off of Lucas Auer, who still hasn't pitted. Neither has Mitch Evans, and neither has Nick De Vries. So Pierre Gasly moving up into effectively a net 5th or 4th, depending on how far up the road Nick De Vries is, because De Vries is on those old tyres now, and starting to drop off in terms of performance. Here's a replay of Pierre Gasly versus Mitch Evans into the Degner curve, another forceful move going through the very tricky Degner sequence, and Gasly taking 5th place for now. Here is Lucas Auer versus Mitch Evans, and both of these should be coming into the pits very soon. In fact, you can see Lucas Auer's pit indicator is yellow, which means that he is due into the pits at the end of this lap. But before he does, as his teammate Yoshida has had a loose wheel and is out of the race. Another unlucky issue for Yoshida, as moving past Mitch Evans goes Lucas Auer, but side by side now, Evans has the inside line going into the Casio, and he's into the pits at the end of this lap as well. So we're going to have a pit stop race between Mitch Evans and Lucas Auer as they slow to a crawl at the pit lane entry. That's not recommended. Don't think it held up that. Is it Giovinazzi going down the main straight? It is Giovinazzi, and Giovinazzi has got, I think is that Esteban Ocon behind Antonio Giovinazzi. I'll have to double check the timing on that one. As out of the pits in 5.1 seconds goes Auer, and he's jumped Mitch Evans. So very, very good pit stop from the Shake and Bake Junior mechanics. Allows Lucas Auer to move up ahead of Mitch Evans. Yeah, Giovinazzi is ahead of Esteban Ocon. Ocon's not had a good race at all on those hard-tyred Spaniel car. As up the inside goes, that's a Monolith overtaking a Liquid Target. And a Liquid Target coming back, going into the Casio. There's a good battle between those two, as clattering the curbs goes the Monolith. Is that Callum Ilott or is that Mitch Evans? Well, here's Genjo Say that we're on board with, going down the main straight in the slipstream of said Monolith. And can Say make up a position into the first corner? Yes, indeed. The Chinese driver moving up a place now, his next target. That Liquid Target in front of him, going through the S's right now. And it's now lap 22. Chuck Bucknam is pulling away quite nicely from Benjamin Pryor, who is now ahead of Charles Leclerc, who jumped Nick De Vries in the pit stop sequence. De Vries leaving his mandatory pit stop too late, and as a result he's lost a place to Charles Leclerc. And is Pascal Wehrlein going to lose a place to Lucas Auer going into the first corner? Auer up the inside, Austria versus Germany, and it's Austria who takes 8th place away from Pascal Wehrlein. Now, next target is Esteban Ocon, but some 10 seconds up the road. Now, I said that Nick De Vries left his mandatory pit stop too long. Well, he's making up for it because he's now right behind Charles Leclerc for 3rd place. Only got a few more laps to go now, and across the line. And it's now lap 26 for these two. Does De Vries have enough of a slipstream to have a look? He's certainly having a look going into the first corner, but not far alongside Leclerc. He's still got plenty of opportunities. You've got into the Degner, which is proving a popular overtaking place. Then into the Spoon Curve, into 130R, then a possible lunge into the Casio Triangle. So there are overtaking opportunities at Suzuka. Just got to plan them right. Is De Vries going to do something exiting Dunlop? Is he going to try and get up alongside into the first Degner? No, he's been sensible this time. So De Vries biding his time because he knows he has the much fresher tyres compared to the Willows Junior in front. As a lap Liquid Target in front, that's Santino Ferrucci way down in 19th place. Is he the last runner, or is there another one left behind him? Either way, we've got it's Itsuki Yoshida and George Russell who are out of the race. There may be another one, as through past Ferrucci goes the battling duo for 3rd place. Now, here is another opportunity for Nick De Vries, going down out of the Spoon Curve, and he pulled out the slipstream a bit too early there, did Nick, but he should go back into the slipstream going into 130R, but he's choosing to stay on the inside. I wonder if there's some cooling issues going on. We did see Russell's car explode about half distance, so maybe Danish Racing are a tad worried about Nick De Vries' cooling. Let's see what happens as we exit the final corner onto lap 27 for these two. And meanwhile, Chuck Bucknam is now 17 seconds ahead of Pryor. Now up the inside, and he's got a much better run this time, has De Vries, and taking 3rd place is the Danish racing car of Nick De Vries, in a very decisive manoeuvre on Charles Leclerc. And behind Leclerc, we've got Pierre Gasly in 5th place in the other Willows Junior. Not doing too badly, and we're having a look at Wehrlein being overtaken by a Medsign around the outside, and now taking that position properly is that Medsign 7. Is that Alexander Albon? It could well be. Taking a place off of Pascal Wehrlein. We are on the final lap now, and it's been a very good drive from Chuck Bucknam. Started down the field, but taking advantage of his very grippy soft tyres in the race. He had to work for it past Benjamin Pryor at some point before the mandatory pit stop, and since that mandatory pit stop he's just pulled away brilliantly. Out of the final corner, and it's going to be Chuck Bucknam from Detroit, Michigan, who takes his first ever FF2M Asia victory. Very well deserved one for that one for Bucknam, and finishing second you'll have Benjamin Pryor in the STV Racing. A very good performance all weekend actually so far. Pole position in qualifying and very good first stint, but ultimately Bucknam's soft tyres was what gave him a big edge. Finishing 3rd, and a well-deserved 3rd as well for that matter, Nick De Vries. Despite leaving that pit stop a bit too late, he takes his first ever FF2M podium. 2 Willows Juniors, 4th and 5th, that will do their team's championship quite a bit of good, as will Antonio Giovinazzi finishing 6th for STV Racing, some good points for them. certainly making up for what happened in the Sepang sprint race. And then Esteban Ocon just didn't really have the car underneath him, but still manages to finish 7th, and he'll be on these soft tyres for the sprint race that will follow. And taking the final point is Lucas Auer in the Shake and Bake Junior. That's a good effort. And there you can see the list of retirements there, just 3, and 2 of them mechanical, which is very unusual to see. Itsuki Yoshida and George Russell, and then Lance Stroll getting it all wrong at the Degner curves, doesn't even finish. And just some of the other runners as well. Daniel Kvyat having a fairly anonymous meeting, we didn't see anything at all of him. So he'll be 6th in the championship, having had a good Sepang meeting. He now is down in 6th in the championship, and it's Pierre Gasly who still leads the championship, but only by 1 point now from Charles Leclerc, and Bucknam's win rockets him up to 3rd in the championship ahead of Esteban Ocon and Benjamin Pryor up in 5th place, thanks to his pole position and 2nd place. And completing the top 10, you've got George Russell, Antonio Giovinazzi, Callum Ilott and Genjo Se. So the team's championship's not particularly close at the moment, because Willows Jr. hold a very healthy 16-point lead over STV Racing, who rocket up to 2nd thanks to Pryor and Giovinazzi's efforts. Gajera 2 are 3rd in the championship ahead of OLM Racing, and Spaniel completing the top 5. Danish Racing, Monolith Racing System, GRM Junior, Medsign 7 and Shake and Bake have all scored points, and the only team not to have scored points so far, the 2 liquid targets of Santino Ferrucci and Nikita Mazepin. They're last in the championship. So that was the feature race, and a very well-deserved win for Chuck Bucknam. Can he do it in the sprint race? Watch and find out.